Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Wednesday, June 5th, 2019. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the latest film and TV news. And in Life Advice Corner, Chris is going to answer a question about being criticized for having pretentious movie tastes. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film writers Hoai-Tran.
Hey, everyone.
And Chris Evangelista.
Hello, folks.
Okay, we have a bunch of news to get to because we haven't done a news episode since last week, and some news just hit the wires that Warner Brothers is not going to have a panel at Comic-Con this year in Hall H. And I since I've been going to Comic-Con since the year Jon Favreau brought Iron Man to Hall H, there has been a Hall H panel. So, Chris, what is going on here?
As far back as we can find through our limited research, Warner Brothers hasn't skipped Hall H in at least 20 years, but they're doing it this year. They will have no presence there at all, in fact, except for It Chapter 2, which will be at ScareDiego, which is usually this opening night deal where that highlights horror films. But that's not at Hall H. That's at a different location. It's not even at the main convention hall where most of the stuff takes place. So,
yeah, that's what they call an offsite event, and I think that's not officially part of Comic-Con.
Right. So, what makes this extra weird is that Warner Brothers has a lot of big stuff on the horizon that they could easily have unveiled here. I mean, they have the Joker movie, they have Wonder Woman 1984, they have the new Batman movie, which hasn't started shooting yet, but they could have easily put something together. They have Birds of Prey. They have Godzilla versus Kong. They have Dune. They have Doctor Sleep. All this stuff is pretty big and seems perfect for Hall H, but not happening this year for some strange reason. Attendance in Comic-Con has started to dwindle a bit in recent years, and a lot of studios are catching on to the fact that they don't really need Comic-Con anymore. There was a time where it seemed like it was a must do. You had to do it if you wanted to get the word out. But Disney, for one, has realized they can control things themselves with their own conventions. So they have Star Wars Celebration and
D23.
Right, exactly. So,
and I should clarify, you said attendance has been waning. That's not in terms of the public attendance, which is still, it sells out every year. You're talking about studios and people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just more and more studios seem to be catching on that it's not, you can get away with not going to Comic-Con and still get the word of your film out there. So it just seems like as the years go on, less and less people are going to be showing up. And that might be the end of Comic-Con in this form. I don't think Comic-Con will ever go away. It'll just evolve into something else.
Yeah, in recent years, it's been evolving into television. Like most of the panels in Hall H and Ballroom 20 have been turning into big TV. Like we're in peak TV, and movies are kind of maybe it's too costly for the movie studios, but it seems like those rabid fan bases who are coming back episode after episode, season after season, maybe it makes more sense if you have a TV show to feed into that in these big, expensive, elaborate panels. And HT, this brings us to you. This could be your first year at Comic-Con. Are you excited?
I'm still excited. This is my first time going to Comic-Con, and that the fact that studios are going to it less does not put a damper on my excitement for this, because maybe it means that the halls will be less crowded and I can just enjoy Comic-Con in its purest form, which is just the appreciation of all geek things and not have to be crowded and overpacked the entire time.
Yeah, last year it was much easier to get into Hall H because there was just much less happening. This year, Marvel is going to return, or we expect that Marvel's going to return, and we're going to have a big epic announcement of their next few years of films. So at least you'll have that to look forward to, HD.
Yeah.
Because the Marvel presentation is by far, I think Jacob referred to it as almost going to like a rock concert. It's the energy in that room is just insane. So at least we'll have that. But okay, we'll keep an eye on everything being announced for Comic-Con, what is there and what is not, and you'll hear about that in the future of the podcast. But let's move on to one of the films Chris mentioned that isn't going to be there, the Batman, the Matt Reeves take on the Caped Crusader. We now know a little bit more about his take. Chris, what do we know?
Yeah, so recently Robert Pattinson was finally finalized as taking over the role of Batman in Matt Reeves' The Batman. And the Hollywood Reporter had this sort of expose on how it all came together, and it dropped a few tidbits. One thing I found interesting is that it mentioned that the choice was only ever between Robert Pattinson and Nicholas Hoult. There had been rumors of other people in the past, like Aaron Taylor Johnson was one of them that got brought up, and Armie Hammer and stuff like that. But according to this report, as far as Matt Reeves was concerned, it was only down to these two guys, and it came sort of much like up to the wire where he was going back and forth between both of them, and he finally settled on Robert Pattinson. Maybe settled isn't a good word because Robert Pattinson is a good choice. He's a good actor, but he finally picked Robert Pattinson. Also, in the midst of all this, it mentions that the film is not going to be an origin story, which is good because we really don't need another Batman origin story. That said, it does mention that the film is going to be taking place very early in Batman's career, stressing that he's going to be about in his 30s, and it's going to be sort of about how he's still kind of learning the ropes. So we sort of got this before with Batman Begins, but that film was really about the very, very beginning of Batman's career. And then The Dark Knight sort of jumped forward into a point where Batman was sort of already set up in Gotham City. And now it looks like this film is going to be in that middle point. So there you have it.
What do you think about that, Chris? I kind of sense in your voice that is not something exciting for you.
No, I don't know what to think about this movie yet. I do think Robert Pattinson is a great choice. I think he's a very good actor. I'm very interested in seeing his take on the film, on this character, because I really have a feeling it's going to be a really weird take. It's going to be sort of like Michael Keaton's take, where he plays him as this sort of like unhinged weirdo. I've always loved Michael Keaton's Batman just because Michael Keaton is a very intense actor, and he brought this sort of off-kilter energy to the role. And I thought Christian Bale's Batman was good, but he played him as this sort of almost like blank, dry, very upright and moral kind of guy, and I don't see Robert Pattinson playing it as that. At the same time, it's like, do we really need like another Batman movie so soon? It just seems like it's time for maybe a break. But I'm sure the minute I start seeing images from the film, the minute I see a trailer, I'm gonna get hyped up.
I mean, I'm excited because
you made a 180 about the Joker movie, Chris. So
it's true, but I've also gone back a little bit due to some other things. So I'm not excited about the Joker movie anymore. But that's neither here nor there.
I'm excited because of Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves has never done me wrong, and I was kind of hoping that he was going to go for an older Batman because we really haven't seen that. I know Zack Snyder kind of was trying to approach Ben Affleck's Batman as that, but like we didn't really get to see much of that. We just got hints when we saw like things around his Batcave and kind of him just as a general tone of things. But yes, I'm in. I'm all in. Let's talk about the Halo TV series. This is coming, and apparently it wants to be Game of Thrones because everything wants to be Game of Thrones. HT, what is going on here?
Yeah, so the Halo TV series, which has been long in the making, it's been in development with Showtime for nearly 5 years now with 343 Industries, which is the video game developer for the franchise. But perhaps it was waiting for a Game of Thrones-sized hole that it could fill, because now that Game of Thrones has wrapped, plenty of shows will be trying to take that place. And apparently Halo will be that. That is according to the transmedia chief, Kiki Wolfkill, who said that the Halo TV series is similar to Game of Thrones a lot in terms of scope, scale, and complexity of relationships. She says that, quote, a lot of the background of Halo is a sort of political drama. It's something that is touched on really lightly in the games, and you may see some more of it in other mediums. Some of that Game of Thrones style complexity is interesting, end quote. But she says that, unlike Game of Thrones, they will not be touching on any incest.
I mean, I'm not a big video gamer, but
oh man, no Incest.
but
I mean, that was my reaction. So.
But what I'm wondering is, like, are fans of the Halo franchise really interested in like a Game of Thrones like political drama? Like, I feel like they just want to see people go out and shoot things. Like, you know, it's a first-person shooter game, right?
Yeah. I also don't know much about the Halo video games, but that's my impression of it as well, that it's more just point and shoot, and it's not really something that really asks for a lot of complexity. But, you know, it's a TV series, and they're probably trying to flesh it out more and perhaps try to overcome the video game curse that has plagued so many video game adaptations on the big and small screen.
I mean, I don't want to be the guy that says, like, you know, a Halo TV series or movie just needs to be, like, action and who cares about the characters. But, like, I don't know. I just don't think this is the property. When you tell me that, you know, Amazon is making a Lord of the Rings show and they're aiming for it to be their Game of Thrones, that makes sense to me, right? But this, I mean, Chris, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I've never really played the Halo games. I am not a big gamer, but everything I know about them doesn't suggest a Game of Thrones like story. It suggests, as you were both saying, guys running around in armor shooting each other. So I don't know. I don't know why they're going. I mean, I know why they're going for this because Game of Thrones was very popular and they want to cash in on that. But it seems like a very strange approach.
Yeah,
and we're going to get a bunch of emails from Halo fans being like, no, actually, this is one of the most complex stories.
Look, I'll save you the trouble. Don't write those emails because I'm not going to read them. Just keep them to yourself.
I know there's some books and stuff, but I do know, like, in the games, it is first person, and you're playing Master Chief, which is this badass-looking futuristic soldier guy, and we don't really know much about him, and I feel like this is going to make the same mistake that a lot of video game movies make and try to give us a, you know, elaborate backstory to him and humanize him. And I feel like what makes those characters under the mask cool is they're under the mask and we don't know what's on the other side of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to know who Boba Fett is. You know, I just want to know that he's this badass bounty hunter. But I'm sure that we'll learn all sorts of things of how Master Chief became Master Chief.
Well, Peter, Boba Fett is a clone. Don't you remember of another? He's the son of another clone or something. I don't know. It was really stupid.
Speaking of clones, Netflix has announced they're making a Jurassic World animated series called Camp Cretaceous. What do we know about this, Chris? Is this related to the movie?
No, it is. That'd be very weird if it wasn't. It's an animated series from DreamWorks headed to Netflix next year, and it's set in the same timeline as the first Jurassic World movie. So I'm guessing this is supposed to be happening elsewhere in the park, and probably even before all hell broke loose in Jurassic World. It's about a group of kids. It's about 6 teenagers chosen for a once-in-a-lifetime experience at a new adventure camp on the opposite side of Isla Nublar. So that's, you know, obviously that's the island that Jurassic Park and then Jurassic World is located on.
Wait, can I interrupt you here?
No.
This is an awesome theme park. Like, it has live dinosaurs. It is amazing, probably costs a fortune, and these kids like get sent to the other side of the island to do like camping, which they could do anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. There's more to the synopsis. It says, but when dinosaurs wreak havoc across the island, the campers are stranded, unable to reach the outside world. They'll need to go from strangers to friends to family if they're going to survive. So it's kind of like Lord of the Flies, but with dinosaurs, which could be cool.
Yeah, no, I actually would want to see that. HD, do you have any interest, or is Jurassic World just had such a bad taste in your mouth that you just have no interest?
I really dislike Jurassic World, but I don't know. I don't really have much interest in this, but I will say, Peter, in response to your disbelief that they would put kids camping on Isla
I'm not questioning the logic. I think they totally would.
There's much logic in the Jurassic Park franchise.
I'm just saying, like, why would you fly someone out to this, like, remote island and put them on like the other side of the island where there's nothing special. You could be camping like in the middle of America and get like the same thing that you could get from.
Why would you put kids camping next to a dinosaur park? Like, how does that make any sense?
I don't think any of it makes sense. But okay, speaking of not making sense, Hollywood is making a Magic 8-Ball movie. This is the Magic 8-Ball toy that you pick up and you ask a question and you turn it over and it answers the question. Apparently Blumhouse is interested in turning this into a big screen property. HT, what do we know?
Basically, that's it. Mattel, the toy company behind iconic toy lines like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Masters of the Universe, and of course the Magic 8-Ball, is teaming up with Blumhouse to bring a Magic 8-Ball movie to the big screen. This is the first time that Mattel has partnered with an indie studio, and it does not say particularly whether this will be a horror film, but considering Blumhouse's range of films, it will likely be something like that, which is kind of strange considering the Magic 8-Ball has never really been associated with anything supernatural or horror like the Ouija board, for example. It's just something that that tells your fortune, which I guess could have paranormal connotations, but maybe that's what Blumhouse will be leaning into.
Like, what does the Magic 8-Ball actually do? Like, it's not like it's not like the magic lamp from Aladdin. Like, you can't like ask, wish for things and it grants it. It just tells you things. So like, it's like Magic 8-Ball. Am I gonna die if I go through that hallway? Yes.
Yeah, that's what it's probably gonna be, or it's yeah.
Yeah, that's basically you just wrote the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go, Peter.
So apparently we don't have to see
Pay
it.
them, Blumhouse.
It's going to be a huge hit, too.
I mean, I'm sure it will, because Blumhouse is going to pay for the Magic 8-Ball, pay scale for a couple actors, and, it'll make millions at the box office. So, okay, let's talk about Punky Brewster. They're apparently rebooting this as well. Chris, what is going on?
Yeah, so Punky Brewster is a TV show in the 80s. It was about this girl who got abandoned by her mother in Chicago. And she's very self-sufficient. She's very sassy. She's a smart kid. So she and her dog, Brandon, basically break into an apartment. And the apartment building owner sort of adopts her as his foster daughter, stepdaughter, whatever you want to call it. And, comedy ensues. It was a hit show. It spawned an animated series, and now it's coming back as a reboot. It's not like a whole new take. It's a sequel series where Punky Brewster is now an adult, and she has a kid of her own.
Does she lose her kid?
No, she's a much better mother than her own mother, I guess. And she has a kid of her own, and the kid will, I guess, get into, antics of her own. And there you have it.
Did Punky Brewster ever find her mom?
I don't know. I know there was very special episodes. There was episodes where the Challenger explodes and she gets really upset and she has to learn about astronauts exploding in space. So I don't know if she ever reunites with her mom though.
Punky Brewster.
I never saw this show. It was before my time, and wow, that is a dark premise.
I mean, that wasn't the whole show. Oh, what, the abandoned thing or the astronauts exploding in space?
The abandoned thing, not the astronauts.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still like wrapped up with the fact that she got abandoned by her parents, and that's the premise of this show.
I think her father was dead, and her mom abandoned her. So it's not her. Don't blame her dad. He had no say in the matter.
Wait a second. So did they? I never watched the show as well. Did they recap that entire abandonment story in the opening of each? Like, was it like?
I'm pretty sure, like in the credits, you see like there's a song, and like you see her like.
So there's a happy song.
By her parents.
I don't think the song like says that, but I think you like see her like throw her arms up in the air, like "Where's my mom?" and then she goes in through a window. I don't know.
Wow.
Oh my god. Sorry, it's just oh my god.
I don't even know a transition between this and X-Men Dark Phoenix. So yeah, we're moving on to X-Men Dark Phoenix. HT, you saw this movie. You wrote a review for the site, which got published at 1 a.m. because maybe the studio didn't want anybody to see it. What did you think of the movie?
This is not a good movie. But unlike a lot of the reviews out there who are scorched earthing this film, it's not the worst X-Men movie. It's just kind of it is a big mess though, especially the first two acts, which have incredibly messy scaffolding and some of the worst dialogue ever put to a superhero film, which is ironic since Simon Kinberg, who is a longtime X-Men screenwriter, takes his directorial debut with this film. So
it should be noted he's also the guy that wrote The Last Stand. So
yes, and he also wrote The Last Stand, which was the first film to tackle the Dark Phoenix saga. And he takes his second stab at doing so with the Dark Phoenix, and he doesn't succeed. This is it's a film that's all over the place and is trying very hard to uphold the legacy of the X-Men franchise. And while it's not entirely a train wreck, there are some quite good action sequences, especially the last action sequence that takes place on a train. It kind of comes to just like this feeble, limp ending that only reminds you of the lost potential of this franchise. So it's just there's a lot of corny dialogue that is delivered by actors who are long checked out of this series, and the rest of the actors, the newcomers like Sophie Turner, Ty Sheridan, don't have quite enough talent to carry that burden of this film, which is, like I said, a kind of a hot mess.
Yeah. I'll say this. I saw all the trailers for this, and every single one of them looked horrendous. And I feel like the movie itself is much better than the marketing. But that said, it's still very mediocre. I agree with everything you said. We'll post a link to your review in the show notes, so if anybody wants to read it before deciding if they should go see Dark Phoenix in theaters or not, you can do that. You've been properly warned.
But I have a question, HT. How come they're not called X-Women?
Well, I don't have a funny answer to that, but
that's actually a line in the movie, folks. They actually released that clip online.
That Jennifer Lawrence gets to deliver, and she looks like she hates every moment of delivering it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move over to Life Advice Corner with Chris.
It's Chris's Advice Corner. It's Chris's Advice
So today we have an email from Name Withheld, who writes in, I've recently found out through mutual friends that my movie taste has been described as pretentious. Most of this stems from the fact that as a group we saw Bohemian Rhapsody and everyone enjoyed it except for myself. They also know that I frequent the local indie theater because I wanted to see movies like Can You Ever Forgive Me, Burning, Wildlife, Vox Lux. Is this a title I should actively work to disprove by pointing out my adoration for franchises like Fast and Furious and Underworld, and how would be the best way of doing this? I appreciate any guidance you could provide, Chris.
You should embrace this title, name Withheld. Look, a thing I learned a long time ago, and I wish I had learned it sooner, is that you really shouldn't care what people think about your tastes. Like when I was in high school, I was terrified of people, knowing my tastes and liking quote unquote the wrong things. Like, I couldn't admit I liked this band, or I couldn't admit I liked this movie because it would make me look uncool. And as I got older, I realized that screw it. I want to like what I like. Life is too short to worry about impressing other people with your tastes. So I would say there's really nothing wrong with liking quote unquote pretentious films, and there's also nothing wrong with liking trash. I know I've been labeled snobby, especially by some of the readers of SlashFilm.com who think I'm a monster for not embracing every single MCU film. And that's fine. Sometimes I get a little defensive and I say, I do like some MCU films and I do like plenty of garbagey films, but my tastes are my tastes, and everyone is different. And you know, don't worry about it. Just like what you like, enjoy what you like, and don't let these naysayers get you down.
I think that's pretty good advice. The one thing I would add to this is that when you're talking about smaller films, and I tend to do this, I think probably all of us tend to do this, you tend to like speak more passionately because these are films that people don't know about and haven't seen. And maybe with bigger films, generally we all talk, we're not as on our soapbox about them. So maybe try to love everything equal, or to spread your love for everything you love equally, so that your friends know what is in your heart, if that makes any sense. H, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I think Chris put it perfectly. Yeah. I'm with my family who likes a lot of the kind of more crowd-pleasing films. I've often been labeled as pretentious as well, but I try not to just like talk too much or like try to push my push my like thoughts on them too much, because I don't want to like ruin other people's enjoyment of things. But if I'm asked about it, then I'll like talk about it and try to support these smaller films that I think that deserve as much. But it's also all about people's taste, and if they won't like this film, then they won't like it.
Yeah, totally. If you have a question for Chris in Chris's Advice Corner, you can send it to peter@slashfilm.com, and please leave your name and general geographic location in case we mention the email on the air. You can find all of our work at slashfilm.com. You can find this podcast, Slash Film Daily, published every weekday on iTunes, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps. Please rate and review this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends, spread the word, and we will see you tomorrow. But Chris, I mean, your movie tastes are kind of pretentious.
Peter, don't. Also, I want to say that person is right. Bohemian Rhapsody is terrible, so there's nothing wrong with saying that.
It's wonderfully generic, is what I would say.
Sure, that's a nice way of saying it's bad. Sure.
I don't know. I think it's enjoyable, but I definitely see why people do not like it.
Yeah, because it's bad.